Բարի օր, ես Աստղիկ Սարգսյանն եմ։ Մեր ձեռքը պահում ենք կարևորագույն իրադարձությունների զարկերակին։ Իմ հյուրն այսօր Հայաստանում Հնդկաստանի նախկին դեսպան Ռինա Պանդեյն է։ Mrs. Pandey, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, Astrid, for this wonderful opportunity to talk on television about India and Armenia's relations. Thank you.
Mrs. Pandey, let us start with what brings you to Armenia 13 years later.
It is a wonderful surprise and what shall I say, like a gift from afar that I was invited by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to come and be one of the speakers at a two-day conference on India and Armenia and its 30 years of relations. 30 years of relations and how we progress into the future. So for me, it's a visit where there is a purpose that I come to, in my own fashion, try to further the relations. And another important aspect is it is a visit of nostalgia. After 13 years, I'm coming back to a country which gave me a lot of affection, regard, and warmth. And the connections never went, even after, during these 13 years, I have very close connections with the Armenian people. So when I came back, it's as though I had not gone away for so long. I'm greeted with the same love and warmth, and I mentioned to you, being fed up to here. So that's what's happening here.
Armenians like to force feed.
Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Pandey, we have noticed that India has made rapid advance in defense technology, both technology and industry, and understandably, Armenia is very interested in cooperation, and we know that the two countries right now mull over military cooperation. I would like to ask, do you believe that this cooperation is going to be limited to the acquisition of a certain amount of weaponry, or should we expect more in terms of strategic cooperation?
Yes, you've raised a very good point. It is not a cooperation which limits itself to supply of arms. It is beyond that. It's broader. You've got to engage each other in the defense policy, in the training, in participating in courses. We run many courses in India relating to defense, in which we have foreign participants, and it's always open to Armenia also every year. So, you know, that way our army personnel want to come here and engage. It's to get an idea of the perspective of how you look at your strategic region. The region which you are in is very strategic, and how India looks from there at this region. So I think it goes beyond just supply of arms. It should not be limited to that.
Mm-hmm. We have witnessed an unprecedented amount of mutual visits of high-ranking officials from both India and Armenia, and this indicates an increased political interest of India in the region, as you mentioned it yourself. We would like to know what political role India intends to play, both in the region as a growing power and in Armenia specifically.
Yes, India is growing as an economic power. It is currently the 5th largest economy in the world. And you know our population. We don't have to say where we are ranked in the size of the population. But India has always, if you see its history, has never been hegemonistic or what can I say, aggressive in its dealings with the world. It has always believed in the world is one family. Even now, our slogan, or what you say, our belief, even in the G20 summit, is one world, one family, one earth. That is how we should look at it. So politically, we would like to enjoy good relations with all countries. And our goal is also, why shouldn't developing countries cooperate with each other for the benefit of its people? You want happier people, people with more prosperity, and this will naturally lower tensions around the world. So our aim is this, that through political, economic, and we are seeing a lot of economic, what you call potential also with Armenia, may not be in the size of the market, right? Ours is a big market, yours is a smaller market. But in the logistics, you are sitting in the crossroads of Europe and Asia. You can play an important role as a transit, you know, to further, and for India to transit through. So this is another object we are looking at. And a recent kind of strategic games that are being played by many countries, you know, including the Pacific region and all those building ports or building connectivity across. So we don't want to be cut off.
Or left out.
To be, yes, left out. And we think that a country like Armenia has the same aspiration.
We shall yet talk about both economic ties and the potential that we see here, and the North-South Corridor project, which India has been a part of. But for now, I'd like to come back to the political aspect of the matter. You know that we live in a volatile region, and that Azerbaijan sabotages the normalization process by an everyday breach of ceasefire or a continuous threat of escalation. What is India's stance on the regional situation, and especially the post-war situation around Artsakh and Armenia?
India's stand is always for dialogue and diplomacy. It has never kind of supported any two countries engaging in war. I mean, it is not a happy situation. It is not just a tragedy of humanitarian proportion. It is also the tragedy, or what you call the spin-off of this war. It doesn't just affect the two principal agents. It's the spillover and the other kind of negative aura that can be unleashed in the region, which we don't want. So we believe, and it's the same thing that we are talking of even about the Russia-Ukraine war. And as our Prime Minister said recently in the SCO summit and reiterated it in the G20 summit, this is not an era for war. This is an era for development, and that is what we are focusing on. So for us, any instability in the region makes us also concerned, because we also have our share of concerns in our neighborhood. So that is why I'm saying our country would definitely want to have a peaceful region here.
Mm-hmm. Now about the economic growth trend. According to the government data, Indian-Armenian trade soared by over 40%, but still stood at a modest 181 million last year. Should we expect a drastic increase in trade overall turnover as the political ties strengthen, or is this too optimistic?
I would not say a drastic increase. But I would definitely say there would be an increase, because it is not just an exchange of visits by ministers, high level. That is, in the last 13 months, there's been really a high exchange of ministerial level visits. But there have been parallel business-to-business delegations which have gone to India, to Bangalore and cities which are like commercial hubs, and Indian businessmen who have come here. It is that contact which would lead to business. The government sets the pace, sets the direction. But after that, I think what we have to do is motivate the businessmen. We have discussed this in these 2 days at the conference, how we must have more B2B meetings, as we say, business to business. We must participate in each other's fairs and exhibitions. That is one of the most, what I would call, significant ways of familiarizing each other's products. I was very, very happy to know that from the ambassador, Honorable Ambassador of Armenia to India, that there is even import of alcohol from India to Armenia. We are quite proud of the whiskey we manufacture, and I believe now Indians are becoming more aware of wine culture, let us say, because before it wasn't so strong. And wine and cognac from Armenia is going. So see, any product, which you have has a market in India. It is so big. And the Indian consumer is looking always for variety. Now that is the trend, variety, something new, and so it becomes very hip. And I also see in pharmaceuticals great potential. And there also I was happy to know that pharma industries are talking even about joint production, say producing in Armenia. You have some strengths in pharmacy, in medical. So that's another area they're talking about very closely. The IT sector has always been a strong point between our two countries. You are very skilled in IT, we are skilled in IT. So here there's a lot of, in fact, the Tumor Center also at this conference talked about the possibility of opening a center in Bangalore. There are lots going on. So it will take, say, a year for it to fructify, as one would say, or longer. But anything that adds to the basket of our import and export would be wonderful.
Do the dynamics of the B2B inspire hope?
Yes. The dynamics has begun. So that is what we should now sustain, the momentum. So I'm very hopeful of this trade increasing.
Mrs. Pandey, now about transport and logistics. India, Iran, and Russia were the original creators of the project North-South Corridor, which transits through Armenia. But unfortunately, the project has been in a halt for a while. What can India do, both politically and financially, to push forward its construction?
India is talking to the principal countries involved, and I think there was even talk of Iran, Armenia, India, right? So there are many opportunities. Armenia has talked of connecting the Georgian and Iranian ports by road through Armenia. India is suggesting Chabahar port for Armenia. And also there are so many possibilities of other routes which can develop. I also understand from this conference that Indian companies are expressing interest in participating in the construction of connectivity points, So as yet, on the ground, I cannot say what is going to happen exactly. But what I can definitely say is there is great interest, and more than interest, there is the will to do something about improving the logistics and connectivity.
Now about what Armenia can do for India, so to speak. Armenia has supported India on a number of issues. For example, Jammu and Kashmir, and has supported the candidacy of India in the United Nations Security Council. What else can Armenia do to become a more valuable political partner for India?
To continue to be our steadfast friend, as it again was apparent from this conference where it was stated that India and Armenia are on the same page. They have no differences. We were trying to think, are there any differences, any point of discord or discontentment, There aren't. And that is a significant feature of any two countries, their bilateral relations, to say that we are not annoyed with each other on anything or irritated, nothing. So where I see a great potential is in the medical sphere of medicine, let's say Medicare, and in education. Now, when I was here, Astrid, there were 650 to 700 Indian students in the medical college here. Today, I'm told by the Armenian side, that there are 2,800 students. Isn't this phenomenal?
It is.
Yes.
It certainly
so this
is.
was in the last
an exponential
few years.
growth.
So when you and I are now discussing, there is this forward moment. So many points were raised, how to further formalize this, how both sides can have a, work out a bilateral education policy, to further strengthen that. See, ours is such a vast country, and the thirst for knowledge and for higher education is enormous among the people. So if Armenia could, in this kind of India's need, build more universities and, attract Indians are very comfortable here. Mm-hmm. I understand from the Armenians that within 2 or 3 months they learn the language because there are so many similar words which we have. So they can, quickly pick up the language. The climate is not too, inclement. We also have some sharp winters and we have hot summers. So climate is not food. You offer so much for the vegetarian also. A lot of Indians are vegetarians, but here your fruits and vegetables are fantastic. So in this area, I see a lot. Then in the area we were also discussing, when we talked, sorry, I didn't mention this, on connectivity, apart from overland connectivity, which is not much, it is the air connectivity that we should work on. And here I would give this priority. If you had direct flights, your trade would increase, your tourism would increase. You see and naturally the other side business would increase. So this point was raised and I was glad to know that both sides are keenly working with their civil aviation agencies to get the flight off the ground. Presently, we come through transit routes. Sometimes they're very inconvenient, the number of hours you have to wait to catch your other flight. This can act as a deterrent, to increase people coming and going. So I would say direct air connectivity is a priority.
Mm-hmm. Is it coming? And how not to lose momentum of the positive dynamics of India-Armenia relations?
We can talk. But there are certain things that should come in place, then it would be easier. So from what I saw, I'm not in the government, but from what I saw in the discussions from the both sides which represent the government, that there is something going on.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, not at all.
Հնդկաստան-Հայաստան հարաբերությունների դինամիկան եւ ընթացքը քննարկեցինք Հայաստանում Հնդկաստանի նախկին դեսպան Ռինա Պանդեյի հետ։ Կհանդիպենք։